11:45 here on a Friday morning. It's also time for part 2 of In the Know. You might be familiar with those pulpy detective stories, right? Full of intrigue and drama. And now we have an author here who is putting stories to paper that have a bit of a local twist on them as well. Author Richard Olson, Dr. Richard Olson, I should say, is here to talk all about them. And first of all, thanks for being here today. Appreciate you giving us the chance.
Well, thanks for the time. I'm always glad to share an opportunity about the history of Peoria.
Absolutely. Now, we have 2 titles in front of us here. I want to highlight this one first, but they both have the same central character, correct?
Yes, Nick Still, private investigator, a boxer turned PI in 1930s, crime-ridden Peoria.
Wow, crime-ridden Peoria. Interesting. A very different take. Weird to think it's almost a century ago at this point.
Pretty near.
Yeah, absolutely. What made you want to be an author to begin with? What really struck you?
Well, I grew up an avid reader, and I did sports, but reading classic stuff and old PI, Private Eyes, and even old movies like Humphrey Bogart led me to like that type of genre, and I never shied away from it. So after literally decades of reading and watching movies like that led me to create my own character.
I love that. Tell us about the character of Nick Still a little bit.
Well, he was a boxer called Kid Still, and he drinks iced tea, and then he gets into trouble, and then he becomes a private eye and drinks scotch and smokes cigars. 1930s Peoria is an incredible backset. Peoria was the whiskey capital of the world before Prohibition. Burlesque and vaudeville, and of course the kids might not know what that is, but there's over 40 movie theaters in Peoria. If it played in Peoria, it played anywhere. And then the infamous Shelton Gang ran the town with Mayor Woodruff. So that's a perfect back setting with historical places, and I just created fictional characters and fictional stories.
I love that historical twist on it, too. And I think something we don't see enough is Central Illinois represented in a lot of fiction as well. So it's refreshing to hear that.
It's like candy, you know. I mean, nobody's done anything like this. And all these buildings, the Lehman buildings burnt down, but the Pierre Marquette and the Soderstrom Castle on Grandview Drive, 1929, which is one of the stories in the second book called Peoria Nights.
Excellent. All right, so I do want to highlight, obviously, the setting itself is a bit of a giveaway, but any Easter eggs embedded in the stories that maybe some locals might pick up on while they're reading?
Well, the Saratoga Pool Hall might be a forgotten thing, and the Lehman Building was burned down in the 90s, so those are forgotten stories, too. The second book, called Peoria Nights, for obvious reasons, there's even a Nazi Steel Caterpillar secret formula story. And then Dr. Soderstrom gave me permission to use the Soderstrom Castle as a Halloween story, so I have Halloween Easter eggs, so to speak. And that's a story of a thief during a Halloween party, and I use an actual castle, and it's just an absolute romp in the park.
A romp in the park. I love that. You can see Soderstrom Castle, by the way, on the cover there. Beautiful covers, by the way. These are so well done. What are you hoping people kind of take away from these stories? I mean, obviously, those who are fans of the genre might want to pick them up, but maybe there's someone out there who just says, hey, there's a local twist on it, I might be interested. What would you have to say to them?
Well, I think it's important to remember the past, remember our roots, to also know where we're going, and to kind of bring back the history and some of the great times they had back then and appreciation they had for things back then in this high-paced society. So sit back, relax, enjoy, drink a scotch. Don't drink a scotch. Read the story.
Maybe add a cigar to the mix, too, if you're really
Yeah, no extra charge for that.
There you go. Dr. Olson, thank you so much for coming in to talk about these. And you can find these on Amazon, is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually Dr. Richard A. Olson, O-L-S-O-N. There's many Richard Olsons that write. And if you look for me on Amazon, there's also a Kindle Vala young adult story my son helped me write.
Oh, excellent.
So the next generation continues.
I love it. The legacy goes on. You can check these out. The cover's pretty recognizable as well. You can go on Amazon today if you're looking for a weekend read. All right, we'll be right back with one last check of weather after the break.